What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here and we're back with another video. Spurs were beaten 2-1 by Manchester United yesterday at Old Trafford. It was billed as Jose's big return to Old Trafford to take on Ollie, and the rumours circulating before the game. If Spurs were to win, Ollie could lose his job, he could be sacked. Apparently he told the players, which obviously he denied in the press conference, that if they were to lose, his job could be at risk. But Ollie was the one who pulled it off and not Jose Mourinho. He outsmarted Jose. Man United were more energetic throughout the most of the 90 minutes. And you've got to say, they deserved the victory. It was a bitterly disappointing display from Tottenham. And it was the day the Jose bubble truly burst. And it was such a shame that we just didn't turn up in a big game. That's happened so often in the past few years, where you're really excited going into a game and you're confident of getting a result. But I must say, I did underestimate Man United going to the game. Obviously, looking at how they've performed recently, you think that Spurs would be confident going into this game, getting a result. But then you forget that Man United this season, beaten Chelsea at home, beaten Leicester at home, only team this season to take a point off Liverpool at home, and obviously they've now beaten us at home. So they clearly have a formula against the bigger teams at Old Trafford that is working for them. How the game went, obviously we lined up in our usual system with that kind of asymmetrical fullbacks, three at the back, Vertonghen left back, Aurier right back, Sanchez, Toby, and then, but with a bit of a surprise, he dropped dive for this game, went for Sissoko in the middle, partnering him with Winks, and Son, Lucas, and Dele supporting Kane. Now, off the ball, obviously we moved to a three at the back with Aurier pushing forward, wide right, Son wide left, Sissoko and Winks tucking in, with Lucas, Dele, and Kane kind of being the forward three. But this just didn't work at all, this formation. I think Man United had a game plan going into it. They got a few more younger players going forward. They added a few more attacking players. I said to my brother when I saw the lineup that I thought this would be more difficult than I anticipated. I expected, like most people, for Man United to play three at the back. There was a lot of rumours before the game they were going to revert to a three at the back. But that he didn't. Ollie was brave. He played four at the back. He put Greenwood up top with Jesse Lingard supporting James and Rashford. Very pacey, very energetic, getting in our faces. And we found it very, very hard to deal with their front four, in all honesty. The problem with our team is we didn't really have a kind of player who can help control the game, with obviously Lo Celso on the bench, and Ndombele on the bench, Eriksen on the bench, who are probably in midfield our best three at controlling the midfield, controlling the passing. Or maybe Lo Celso is yet to be seen, but especially with Eriksen and Ndombele, we've seen what they can do on the ball. And the problem we had with Winks and Sissoko is they're not the best at advancing the ball forward. They're not the best at breaking lines. They're very good at doing simple stuff. Sissoko is very good at dribbling and pressing forward, but when he's being pressed high by Fred and by Scott McTominay, we didn't really have an answer. When you're being pressed high and like we were, you have to be able to play out the press, and Winks and Sissoko were just not able to do that. They kept giving the ball away. Vertonghen was hounded by Daniel James. He didn't have any time on the ball. And whenever we did have time on the ball with Toby Alderweireld, we just seem to play it long, time after time again, and Man United seemed to have a plan for that as well. Whenever we played it long, Ashley Young or Harry Maguire would just pick up the second balls, would win the headers, pick up the second balls, and not let that ball go in behind them. Unlike Bournemouth and West Ham, who were more than obliged us in those balls over the top. I don't think the Toby Alderweireld ping worked once. We made Fred look like a prime Michael Essien in this game, and that is saying something. We just didn't turn up at all. And it made us pay. Within the first 5 minutes, you could see Man United are more up than Spurs. And in the first 5 minutes, Marcus Rashford wins the ball after some sloppy defending from Davinson Sanchez, losing the ball after he initially wins the tackle, plays a weak pass. It finds its way to Lingard, who's able to find Rashford, and his shot at the near post, has to be saved by Paulo Gazzaniga. Absolutely has to be saved. If you see it again on the replay, He has the near post well covered. The power, I know it was a very powerful shot, but it kind of hits his wrist while he's diving. Doesn't get a good palm on it, and because it hit his wrist instead of his palm, it kind of goes onto the post and into the net. He will be very disappointed with that goal going in so early in the game, setting the tone for the game, really. And to be fair to Gaza, he made up for it with a number of very good saves throughout the game, but his error, in my opinion, put us on the back foot. He should have been keeping out of the near post, led to Rashford putting us 1-0 down. And we could not get a foothold in this game, especially in the first half an hour. They were pressing us, Man United. They were creating chance after chance. Daniel James was getting a lot of joy out of Jan Vertonghen at left back. He was able to burst past him a number of times, getting cutbacks. Marcus Rashford has crashed the crossbar from about 30 yards out with a dipping drive, which is reminiscent of a Ronaldo long shot. Really superb technique from Rashford, who really showed what he's all about in this game. He was absolutely sublime on the left-hand side. And if it wasn't for the fingertips of Paulo Gazzaniga, we would have been 2-0 down. They had a few more chances. I think Jesse Lingard forced a save from Gaza. Rashford had a free kick just wide. And the only shot of note Spurs had was a free kick from Harry Kane in the first half an hour. Really disappointing. We just really didn't show up. And Dele Alli said after the game that it could have been we were just second to the second balls. We didn't play with any energy. And he said we showed a bit of arrogance and maybe we underestimated them. And that's such a shame. I think thinking Jose wouldn't have allowed that to happen. But the defensive frailties have been evident even in Jose's first 3 games, and they definitely showed up again yesterday. And there's a lot of work to do with Jose in that back four because at times we were just all over the place, didn't have any sort of control. We let Man United play their game plan. We didn't have an answer to it. The only bit of quality we did show throughout the whole 90 minutes was right at the end of the first half when we finally had an attack which looked promising. Jan Vertonghen crosses the ball. It finds its way to Serge Aurier at the back post. His volley is very well saved by David De Gea. I think that was our first shot on target just before half time. The ball goes looping high up in the air, and somehow once the ball drops, Dele's wrestling with Ashley Young and Fred. He somehow manages to volley a flick over Ashley Young so perfectly weighted that it falls back into his path that he's able to half volley into the back of the net. One of the most amazing pieces of skill I've seen in a Tottenham shirt in a very long time. People say it's reminiscent of the Crystal Palace goal that he scored a few years ago. I think it's even better than that goal because the Crystal Palace goal, yeah, he chests it and flicks it over a midfielder and is able to volley it, but he wasn't able to control a volleyed flick from such a height like he was in this game, and to do it in such a tight space. He wasn't outside the area like he was against Crystal Palace, where he had a lot more space to do it in. He was inside the penalty area, a lot tighter space, so the touch had to be a lot more precise, and he was able to touch it, flick it over Ashley Young, and then bury the half volley past David De Gea in such a clinical fashion. So impressive, really, really well done by Dele Alli, but it was such a shame. It was the only piece of quality from Spurs the whole 90 minutes. In the second half, right at the beginning again, we set the tone for the second half as we did in the first half. Sloppy play at the start, letting Rashford running behind us. Serge Aurier getting absolutely turned, who had a horrid day throughout the game. Moussa Sissoko covering for him on the right-hand side. He drove over, and what was the theme of pretty much the whole game was Sissoko covering for Aurier, leaving Winks high and dry in that centre midfield, which is part of the reason Man United were able to dominate in that midfield. As we said in the second half, Moussa Sissoko comes over, Rashford gets in behind him, and it's a clumsy challenge from Moussa Sissoko to allow Rashford to go over, and they gave a pen. I honestly think it's a soft penalty. I do think if the referee didn't give a penalty, it wouldn't have been overturned. It wasn't a blatant penalty. I'm undecided whether Sissoko got any contact on Rashford's foot or not. It kind of looks like he might have. It was minimal contact at best if he does. But the fact that Sissoko went in for the challenge and didn't get the ball, he can't really have any complaints. And it's clumsy from Sissoko, and he was having a fairly decent game. I know a lot of people getting on his back, but he had to do a lot of covering for Serge Aurier on that right-hand side, and he did his best. I thought in the first half he was one of our only players who were actually giving a decent account of themselves, but he will be very disappointed with that mistake in the second half. And also, I think he'll be disappointed in general with his play on the ball. His passing was generally not very good, not very accurate or crisp. I think when he was being pressed, he struggled to find a man when he was passing. And I think that's part of the reason maybe we should have had an Ndombele or an Eriksen on the pitch a lot earlier, or from the start, to gain a bit more control in that midfield, because that's what we were lacking. Rashford sent Paulo the wrong way, and it was 2-1 Man United. Second half was... There wasn't much goalmouth action in the second half, but most of it was down at the Man United end. They were counter-attacking us time after time. We were playing the long ball over the top because we couldn't beat their press, and they were just gobbling up. It was so easy for them. We weren't able to play through them at all. The chances we did create were just half chances. Serge Aurier had a shot, very similar position to his goal he scored against Olympiacos, but this time it was straight down David De Gea's throat as opposed to in the corner like it was against Olympiacos. Dele Alli had a shot in stoppage time. A nice little half chance fell to him, but straight down David De Gea's throat. Any sort of chance we had from a crossing position into David De Gea's hands or went behind for a goal kick, really poor. And Man United were a threat on the counter. Daniel James giving us a real tough time. We weren't able to win the ball back off them because Sissoko was out covering Aurier, and Harry Winks wasn't able to get any sort of control in the midfield. And Jose is going to give him a lot of food for thought going into the next few games, because this was our first real test we had under Jose, the hardest game, and we failed quite badly. And Jose is going to be quite worried by probably what he's seen in this game. And it probably shows that probably what we all knew, that the squad problems run deeper than just the manager. Although the manager situation did slightly improve it initially, there was definitely an improvement in how we were playing in terms of the confidence of the squad. Dele Alli still has that spark about him, but the defence clearly needs a lot more work to do, and Jose's going to have his work cut out. I think Sanchez, his passing in particular was extremely disappointing, and that was something that Jose Mourinho pointed out after the final when Man United played Ajax, that he just let Sanchez have the ball because his passing wasn't very good. And so it proved last game. It was sloppy, wasn't to feet, it was either too powerful, wasn't well weighted, or went out of play. And that's something he's really got to look at, because we're playing at the level that we're playing at. We expect now to have our centre-backs being able to play football as well as defend. And his defending has improved over the last few games, but disappointing with this has always been a problem for him. His on the ball, his passing ability has always been limited. How we go about this, we have to start figuring out how we're going to play against teams who are pressing us high, because clearly that's an issue for us. We used to do that to teams, and now teams are doing that to us. We don't have an answer unless we're starting to get more control midfield, which we did against Olympiacos. We brought on Eriksen after half an hour, and that seemed to help. But when we had Sissoko and Winks together, it just did not work at all. Such a shame that Son was so anonymous. Harry Kane completely bullied by Harry Maguire. Anytime he played the ball over the top, Harry Maguire was there gobbling up the headers. And Lucas Moura, the front three were completely anonymous. They were completely starved of supply. They weren't able to come short and get the ball. And the thing is, they're not really passers, those two. I know Kane is, but in terms of Son and Lucas, they're dribblers. They like space. They like to take on their man. And when they're being pressed high, they're not given time on the ball to turn and get and dribble. They're not the type of players who are going to do quick passing, quick 1-2s. That's what Eriksen's there for. That's what Lo Celso and Ndombele is there for. So that's something Jose's got to look at, and maybe got to coach into them, that ability to play quick one passing football instead of just being direct and straight to goal, which those players like to do more, which is part of the reason why we struggle in this game. But credit to Man United, credit to Ollie, who came up with a plan. I think he surprised the Spurs arm management with the formation they played, and I think he definitely surprised me with the attacking approach that he took. They deserved the win. They had the better chances. They were more energetic. They wanted the ball more. They wanted the win more, and that's all you can say, really. Matt, Spurs have really got to look at themselves and how they performed this game, and really, because this is emblematic of how things ended under Poch. Just performances like this with no fight, no creativity, no spark, lack of energy, and we have to look at fixing this issue because it's becoming a real problem. But hopefully we can turn it around in our next game against Burnley. It's going to be a different kind of game than against Man United. Jose's got to learn from this defeat, learn what the problems in the squad are, and try and get a better performance out of this team. I know it's only his 4th game, but he's got to learn quickly because the game is coming thick and fast. But obviously, he's one of the best managers in Europe, so you've got to believe that he can identify these things. But it's such a shame that the excitement kind of burst so quickly, because this performance was very much of a few weeks ago, and there was no difference in the Poch's final days. So, got to see where Mourinho can improve this. Anyway, let us know in the comments below. What do you think of the game? Where did you think we went wrong? What do you think the problem with Jose's tactics were? Where did you think do you think he made a mistake with the team selection? What do you think the standout moment in the game? Let us know, and as always, come on you Spurs.